it's because we're so dynamic in the sense that we can be cool, we can be very quiet, and we have so much knowledge. And that that mixture is very unsettling for most people. And so people, like, it's very confusing for folks because because most people who are quiet are just generally quiet. And so, like, I mirror them, but with depth, but with quietness. That's why people are intimidated by the INFJ. Johnny Fontana, real world INFJ Scorpio, back with another video. The INFJ intimidation is real. Right, let's get deep about it. First of all, I want to say that obviously when I speak, right, when I have these conversations, it's not for any other personality type. It's strictly for the INFJ and or those who align and associate with these types of cognitive behaviors, functions, thoughts, processes, and all of the above, right? So again, whether or not you are INFJ, I don't know. But if you can align and if you can execute, or at least you have the intention, right, of executing, then that's good enough. There's no such thing as a fake INFJ. There is such thing as an underdeveloped INFJ. Because at the end of the day, if you can INFJ, if you have what it takes, if you can do all of that, then you're good to go. To get to the point of what I'm trying to say, is that we are intimidated, and it's affecting me. All right, it's affecting me now, and I'm having a hard time. And I'm walking through this because unfortunately we don't have a lot of people to help us with these, situations. There aren't a lot of people, and I'm not about the whole validation. It's like, oh, do you intimidate people? Yes, we do. Okay, talk to me more. Let's get deep. Like, what the is going on here? And so, as you know, I am in this course. In prior service means that I was enlisted into the military. And so now I am attending a course by where I will be teaching military members and other civilians. And throughout this course, I've noticed, again, different personality types, but I've also noticed that during our evaluations, because the instructor is evaluating us, whenever I go up, I don't have that sense of Josh, that sense of like lightness or lightiness that everyone else has, where they can sort of, do the whole joking and make people laugh and make people giddy and all that stuff. Me, I'm a little bit more serious because like I'm more interested in teaching, not from the perspective of like, oh, you don't know anything, but it's like, hey, if the goal is for us to be evaluated on how we instruct, and I have this lesson plan that I've created, and I've spent 5 hours, 7 hours literally the night before, because again, it's like, you don't really have time to develop your lesson plan, like, because of the course of the way that it's structured. You don't have time weeks in advance because you learn how to create lesson plans and you learn the autonomy of lesson structuring and all that stuff. So then now we have, like, we have an evaluation today, and then now in 2 days you have, the next one. So I've had one today. Now Monday, this is Friday, now Monday is my another one. So I'm going to be spending at least 5 to 7 hours on, building my next and final lesson plan. But it's like every time I go up, I can see it, I feel it, and I ignore it. But like I've come close to like stopping and be like, okay, What's with the and smirks? What's going on? And this intensity, I don't show it, but it is displayed in other areas. So when we talk about, all right, let me backtrack. The majority of the lessons are taken from what we're going. So a lot of it has to do with trust, negotiations, leadership, management, emotional intelligence, types of thinking, all of those kind of, I guess, light personality based lessons, where I did one, I think it was types of thinking, and I was going to do another one of operational culture. But I've decided that my third and my fourth and fifth ones are going to be with joint operation planning. And I've realized that nobody, because they're going to be teaching that, and they're going to be teaching these classes, no one touched joint operations except for me. Part of it is because I know it, right? It's been just recently implemented into these courses, but I know it, and so, but it's also a challenge to myself. But it's like every time I go up, I feel the resistance. So I talked to someone and I was like, hey, I want to know, because I'm not about myself pointing fingers, right? I'm always reflective, always internal, always trying to figure out, like, what is it? What's going on, right? Like, why? So I asked one person who I thought, I was like, okay, I know he's gonna give me the good. He's not gonna give me some like fluff. And I was like, hey, got a question for you, brother. Like, every time I go up, I feel some tension, man. Like, what's up? And he told me, he was like, hey, listen, like, your language is fluid, and sometimes people have to like take time to figure out what you're saying, because sometimes you use complex words, and so you may have to dumb it down to like 10th grade. And I was like, oh. But I got it, and I felt better, because I was like, okay, because you know how we get in our heads, we're like, hey, what am I doing? Am I looking like I'm an idiot? Like, am I going too deep? Am I overcomplicated things? And I think because we're so vested in what we're trying to teach, right, as INFJs, that ENFJs don't do it. ISFJs may do it, but like, we're so vested in the product, that because we know about it, right, and we want to teach because we want to help, and we're thinking beyond our space. We're thinking, okay, how is this also going to help them as well? Because you're thinking, hey, I have this material, it may be helping them as well, right? Because we're at different levels, different stages, different experiences. And I basically was like, okay, I got that, I feel it, but it's something I just wasn't content. So yesterday, I did my fourth evaluation. Sorry. And it was on joint operation planning, and I did the first part, and I'm going to do the joint operation plan and execution for the last one. I created my own scenarios, 5 hours working on it. Went out and spent $25 on printing paper, because I don't have one here at the hotel, for 3 groups. And I started to get the resistance. And after it was done, but I started off with saying, hey, listen, right now, I created these products. Even though the lesson plan is going to be across different installations, but there isn't any product like this. I'm creating it. I've created this to go along with the lesson plan, because the lesson plan doesn't have any visuals, doesn't have any of that. And where I'm currently, right, in Germany, they called me and they were like, hey, we need for you to teach this because you're at headquarters. So we want for you to teach us this. The schoolhouse, right, called me up and were like, we want you to teach us how to teach. And so for me, I am of the mindset that what I do, it's not just for myself, it's for, hey, yeah, I want to take credit for it, but at the end of the day, it's for the greater good. Because if you're all going to be participating and instructing the same, I'm the only one who has that, I'm going to give it to you as well. And that was what I was like, hey, listen, I said, this is very dry material, but I'm going to dumb it down. And I corrected myself. I was like, I'm going to bring it down to bite-sized information, right? So that's more consumable, I guess, in a way. And that you'll be able to have all of this by the time we leave. You'll have access. I will give you my 86 slide PowerPoint with all my notes and everything broken down. Like, that's like INFJ style. Like, we work so hard on that thing, right? I know I keep using INFJ, I'm sorry, but whatever. But I'm trying to emphasize, right? Nonetheless, after the brief, I mean, I performed it well, so I passed. It was, one of the live feedback, well, one of the my peers, because we're all peer instructors. This guy is like a GS-14, right? He works for the Department of State or something like that. And he was like, I felt like you were talking down to us, right? It's like when you said, dumb it down, like, we can handle it. And I was like, oh yeah. And that's why I said, that's why I told him, I said, I stopped him, I interrupted him. I was like, yeah. And that's why I sort of backtracked. But then later on, I'm like, man, like, you're getting offended because, like, I used the term dumb it down. Like, when I was in the Marine Corps, people were like, hey, listen, like, we're going to break it down Barney style. Meaning that we're going to break it down to the point where there's no assumptions. You understand. And I'm like, you literally, like, got so offended by the fact that I said dumb it down, that you're so hurt and sensitive about it. And then one other person was like, yeah, you can communicate in a way that's like, hey, you know what, this is complicated, but we're going to, and I'm like, and that's when it hit me. And then somebody else came up, which I have relations with. He's a IN something, or maybe he's a different personality. But we were talking, and he's very logical, but he has great understanding, right, of certain aspects of why things are, right, the way they are. But he's bad with emotions. So he told me, he's like, yeah, like, whenever, like, someone is being emotional, it's very difficult for him to comfort them, but he knows to go get someone else to comfort them. And I was like, cool. And he also understands. I was like, so I would ask him, and I try to, like, throw it in there. I was like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think? And he's actually able to break it down. And I was like, man, I like that. So we connect in a way that I see things not differently, but I have different cognitive functions than he does, but I'm able to, and I acknowledge him. I'm like, man, that's great. Like, if we came together, like, with the way that I think and you think, we could definitely do greater things. But he came to me afterwards and he was like, hey, I like your slides, I know that others were hating on it. And I was like, what do you mean others were hating on it? He was kind of hesitant, but I didn't want to push it. But he was like, yeah, I like your slides because this, and when I was in Africa, this, that, and the third, and I was put in this position. I was like, appreciate. And again, I didn't like go too deep, but I came back home and it really jacked me up. I had to make a couple phone calls. I was like, yo, like, what's up? Like, what is it about me, man, that's intimidating these people? And someone told me, man, it's like, yo, like, Johnny, like, you're unique, man. And again, this is not to pump me up. They're like, you're unique, right? Like, you have a lot of experience that a lot of these people don't. Like, like, take the guy from, like, the Department of State. Like, he's been through, like, the federal service. That's what he knows, right? Some of these people, like, lived like in one space, or very limited. Like, you were in the military, you lived in all these countries, like you've had different careers, not just going from federal to federal like these other people do. You went from being a police officer, from being a personal trainer, from opening your business, you know what I'm saying, to you, to being in the military again, to leaving the military, you know, and being a DJ, and so, and you're just different. Like, you ask questions, and he was my mentor. He was like, yeah, man, like sometimes you would come into my office and I'm like, I got excited because when you left, I was like, hey, he made me think. And then sometimes you wouldn't come in and you wouldn't ask me any questions. You wouldn't come to the office and ask me questions. This was my division chief, right, a couple of years ago. But now he's in where is he now? In Colorado. But the point that he made was that, dude, like, you're different. You got unique. Not to make you any better or that you're above these people, but you have something different. And sometimes you may not read the room. You may not realize that these people are not operating at that same level. And you can come across as, and he was like, when you made the reference of like, oh yeah, I can give you that, you have to. And I'm like, but why do I gotta be soft for? Why do I gotta tone it down for? You know what I'm saying to you? Like, why? Because at the end of the day, like, I'm trying to look out for you guys. But I say all this to say, because you're probably wondering, okay, where am I going with this? What I'm trying to say is that it's real. Intimidation factor is real. And the only way you can better manage it is when you surround yourself with people who are as experienced within your particular field or higher. Or you surround yourself with people who are experienced and at a higher level in other fields. So, for example, I could not go toe to toe with a mechanic or an engineer because I don't have that mindset, or a financial guru. So when I'm around you, or a business owner, when I'm around you, I'm in awe. As a matter of fact, I thrive on other people's success, and that's the difference. Because I, again, as a FE user, when I see other people thriving, I'm like, that rubs off on me. I'm like, like, that's cool. Like, I want to be that as well. Like, it motivates me. If I see someone winning, I'm like, hey, that's cool, man. Like, that's great. And so if someone has that information, I'll be the first person to be like, hey, I'm going to have to use that as well. I'm going to come to you, be like, hey, I need that information. No, not one person came up to me and was like, yo, you know this. Let me have it. Let me get that. Not one person. And I realized that not everyone is like us. I would say many people are just about checking the box. In the moment, they're there, they're whatever, they show up. But for us, it's like continuous. It's like we're just on fire all day, every day. That's why when somebody can come, like, I was with a friend of mine, just really quickly. It's important as to what I'm saying. I was over the weekend. I went to go see a friend in New Jersey, and we haven't seen each other in a while. And he's doing well in business. And we talked all weekend. Like, we had an extensive period of just discussing different things. And even on my way back, I was, giving him some guidance, on, human capital, when it comes to talent management and who he's trying to put in position in his office, whatever. But we were going. And then, like, the other day, I texted him, right? And he was like, yeah, I'm tired. We have to talk about it. I just asked him for freaking dates, like when he's supposed to be coming to London. Because then I can meet him, me and my family can meet him and his family and drive over there, because it's only 8 hours for a drive. And he was like, I'll let you know tomorrow. It's been a long day, whatever. Again, I'm not saying that people can't recoup. I'm saying for us, we tend to like, like, it doesn't matter. We're still going. Yeah, we get drained, but I keep it. And again, it's, if you don't use it, you lose it. Meaning that if you're accustomed to, like, it's like running, right? If you don't run often, if you don't put in the mileage, then 1 mile, 2 miles is going to be a lot for you. But if you're constantly running every day, you're putting in that mileage, it's easy for you to sustain that level and that pace. So for me, I do it so much that now I'm able to extend my charge, if you will, right? Or I'm able to how can I say, even though the charge is like in my mind, I'm like, I'm done, but I can still continue, right? Just because I've been so used to it. Like, for example, we went out the other night, and it was nice, the initial phase of like, hey, we're out, at a bar, whatever, music. But after like 30 minutes, I'm like, I need to go. Like, we're gonna be here for another hour again? Like, really? Like, in my mind, I was just like tapped out. Like, I was done. Because again, it's just like, there's nothing happening, right? But I was just there. But like, I had to show face, right? So I was able to maintain it, and I didn't do the whole like, oh, I need to go and whatever. No, because you're out with people and you haven't seen them in a long time, and you're now just reconnecting with them because there was a break in relationship and all that stuff. So you have to do your part, Johnny, right? So when he sent me that message about, oh, I'm like, again, INFJ, I took a hit. I was like, oh man, this guy, like, why are you, But again, I have to be accepting of the fact that not everyone can be like me. And then it also brought me back to maybe that's why I don't talk to him, or we stopped talking, is because he would never follow through, which is ironic, because why? Because we're awful at freaking maintaining relationships and like following through with our friends. And that's where you call out the hypocrisy. You're a hypocrite. Yeah. Like, you gotta acknowledge, dude. You have to acknowledge. Like, it's just, you cannot just. That's the real world INFJ in us. We acknowledge. Yeah, like after a certain point, you don't point the finger. You try to figure out, what am I doing wrong? How do I adjust? And so, how do you adjust with this intimidation thing? It's like, do you tone it down a little bit, right? Like, it's you don't have to, but it's highly recommended, right? To the extent of like, okay, how much are you willing to deal with whatever backlash you get? And so now I'm to the point where it's not that bad. I got one more, and are you willing to, like, go through it again? And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go through it, and I'm gonna go through the 5th phase, and I'm gonna do what Johnny does. And I'm not gonna do this whole, I got this, you guys can have it. I'm just gonna basically be like, okay, here's the material, and I'm going to, because it's a guided discussion, but I'm gonna present, definitions and so forth and so on. That's coming straight from the lesson plan that they're gonna be teaching. And when they realize that they don't have it, and that it's going to take a while for them, because it's not just about reading the definition. You have to be intimately involved in it. Like, you have to execute a lot of these systems that is in the lesson plan. And if you don't understand the systems, if you don't work it, it's very difficult for you to understand. Just because you have that information doesn't mean that you understand. It's like cognitive functions. You can read it all day, but if you don't live it, if you don't know how to intuit, if you don't know how to FE, if you don't know how to SE, if you don't know how to TI, then guess what? You're just underdeveloped. Again, it's not about you being fake, but if you don't FE and SE and NI, like, go hard on it, and you're like, well, I'm just gonna just hang out, I'm an INFJ, but I know I'm not gonna really, well, then what are you doing? Right? Like, you're not actioning, man. You're just there. Right? You're there, and then you're always gonna be on Reddit asking the same questions, always on YouTube, watching videos that you only relate to, that keep you at this level. And when people you see who aren't like that, who are above you, you're gonna challenge them and be like, "Oh, that's an ENFJ. That's an ISFJ. Oh, that's an INTP." Well, nah. It's just that you are freaking lowest of the low. And you haven't risen above that. You haven't pushed yourself to go beyond in order to be able to use all functions at a higher level, depending on the situation. Because again, what good is it of calling yourself a chameleon if you can't chameleon? That's the irony of things. And I'll leave it at that. But I don't want to leave it at that because I was a little intense. I want to leave it on a better note, because I'm not trying to teach. Again, it's not you guys. Maybe I'm speaking to some of you, but I'm speaking through you, right? But the bottom line, man, is that it's real and it hurts. Like, you have to engage. Like, you gotta go through it, man, and it sucks. It's painful. Like, I am hurting right now, right? Like, again, I'm having this conversation with INFJs, and other people are like, what the f are you talking about hurting? Like, it's a hurt that, like, only us, we understand, like, internally. Like, other people, they don't understand what I mean by that. And like, I'm like hurting, like, I'm not gonna be able to eat for the next 2 days, or I'm trapped inside my head. No. But I'm hurting. Because it's not that I want to be liked, but I feel the uncomfortability and I don't like it. It sucks. I don't like being up, because it's like, I know I gotta go up one more time and people are gonna be like smirking and doing all this kind of crazy stuff. But individually, we're cool. You know what I'm saying to you? But here's one thing I gotta say. Like, people are gonna, well, why? What is it about us? Because you go on, no one can really answer. Forget about empathy, this, that, and the third, reading people. We know we can do that. But why? The reason why, especially those who are a little bit more forward, right? And who may be a little bit more like of a chameleon type, who can be very dynamic. It's because we're so dynamic, in the sense that we can be cool, we can be very quiet, and we have so much knowledge. And that that mixture is very unsettling for most people, because most people, you see them, it's like, oh, I can see them, he's the character of the class, or he's the quiet one of the class, oh, this one is the emotional one of the time, oh, this one skips class, or this one is a more intense, always want to teach people, or this. We encompass everyone inside, except for the funny whatever, and we can get funny in our own, but we have a quietness about us, but it's also intense. And so people, like, it's very confusing for folks, because like, because most people who are quiet are just generally quiet. But when you are quiet, but then like when it's time for you to get up, you're like dude, like, this guy's, it's intense. It's a weird thing, right? So I'm very quiet. Like, in a class, I'm not very, like, always wanted to be the one to speak. But then when you ask me a question, I'll provide you depth. And they're like, whoa, like, this guy who doesn't speak is depth. And then when I'm up top performing, you know, I'm asking you questions. It's like, hey, what do you think about that? What do you think about that? And it's like, dude, like, we can't, like, someone who's quiet but then who's asking us questions so confidently, it just doesn't make any sense, because most people who are quiet are going to be quiet. They're going to be reserved. Or if they'll ask you questions, it's not going to come from the same intensity as us. Like right now, like the intensity, I'm driving right now. You're like, what the? But then in class, I'll be like this. And if they'll ask a question, so like, what are some of the, like, what can you tell me about emotional intelligence, and how has it affected you in terms of, you know, your workplace environment? Well, I can say that the reason why I want to do this is because I see certain things, and as a result, you have, different dynamics within the workshop. So as a result, so you want to sit here and explain like all layers. So it's not from the place of like, I am and I feel this. Remember we talked about that, right? It's never from the place of me. It's never self-reflect. It's always explaining why things are. And I think that's also what triggers people, is because we see things, we're not explaining just from our place of view. It's never, I feel this way or I feel this way. It's, let me capture exactly what this is and where it comes from and why it's, and as a result of this what could potentially happen, because this is the first, secondary, and tertiary effect as a result of that. So when you include all of this stuff, the people are like, what the, right? So when you bring up the fact that I was bringing up the fact of like when we're doing this whole andragogy style of teaching, adult learning, especially within veterans and military presence and so forth and so on, it's sort of doing away with the sense of direct command presence, right? When it comes to teaching, especially like joint operations, you can't have a guided direction on joint operations. You have to have, it's got to be very, I guess, balanced, right? Where you have to teach certain stuff so people understand what it is. If not, because no one's really exposed to that. And I brought that up, and people don't understand. You know what I'm saying to you? Like, it just went over their heads. And you get the intensity. I'm like, hey, because of this, you understand? So that's what it is. And so like I mirror them, but with depth, but with quietness. That's why people are intimidated by the INFJ. And how do you like minimize it is very difficult, because it's like you're in this space of like being yourself, but at the same time trying to tone it down. And that's why I said like it's tough. It's basically you have to find like that right based on circumstances and the threshold. Are you willing to like sacrifice that, for that? And again, it varies to different extents, right? If you're in a long-term situation, you're gonna have to figure out on your own how much can you know what I'm saying to you, is it worth it, or do you have to tone it down a little bit? And if it's toning down, it's you toning it down because it's gonna bring peace to you. It's not toning down because anybody else is telling you, oh, don't turn it down, or you need to turn it down. No, it's like, how can you find peace within yourself? And so for me, it's like I was gonna be like, I'm gonna tone it down. I was gonna take another subject. I was gonna go with negotiations or something like that, just because I don't want to have to deal with the. But I was like, you know what, man, I'm gonna do it, right? Because I'm okay, because it's only one more, and not only that, I'm more confident in that, so it's a little easier for me, because they don't know it, so they don't know what they don't know, so it's easy for me to get away with stuff, right? But it's not that reason. It's because I want to show them. But I'm gonna do an INFJ trick. I'm gonna actually, because we have to put the stuff in teams, in folders. I'm gonna, on my PowerPoint, I'm gonna create and place a password so that they won't be able to have access to it. Because I want to force them, and that's part of the INFJ madness, right? I want to force them to start asking me questions, and it's not because I'm above them. But I'm like, you don't get to tell me, oh, you're teaching down to us, and then now, when I'm trying my hardest to really, involve you and help you out, and then now you want something for free. No, you have to do it the right way. Have a conversation with me. And again, it's not, maybe it is teaching, right? Maybe it's me showing them the way. But it's like, no, you have to do it the right way. You can't just like hide your way, undermine me, smirk at me, and then get to have your riches based off of my hard work. It doesn't work like that. Hopefully, man, this makes sense. I appreciate you guys, man. Again, I don't read comments. I'm sorry. I don't want to get involved in the back and forth and that. It's just, again, for this personality, it's very subjective. It's based on experience, your situation. You know what I'm saying to you? And if it works, whatever fits, take it. Whatever doesn't, as they say, chew the meat, spit out the bones. But I don't do this for likes. I don't do this for views. I don't do this for monetary reasons. I just do it because I think that there's not a lot of places that have it, and it's not about me leaving any kind of legacy. I just do it because I just feel compelled. It's just a feeling that I cannot explain. On that note, I really appreciate you, despite me not showing it in the comment section. Johnny Fontana, Real World INFJ Scorpio. We out.